rightfully put, the queues are still long, even as dignitaries and other eminent persons make way to KICC, and several roads across the CBD have been blocked off to ensure smooth transition to the convention center as Nairobi hosts the inaugural Africa Climate Summit. One of the conversations that is going to be taking place this morning and also through the next 3-4 days is about finance. And to better put this into perspective is none other than Dr. Oldman Koboto, who is the manager of the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Karibu Nairobi.
Karibu.
As you say, Africa is in Nairobi this morning.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about finance, what do you think has been the main impediment for Africa tapping into climate financing options, or rather the kitty that is there?
The challenges that faces the African continent are how different from other small and vulnerable countries that we have around the world. And as you know, Africa is one of the most vulnerable countries by all measure, whichever way you look at it. And in our assessment, what has been quite standing out as a big challenge for accessing international climate finance to begin with is the technical capacity to be able to develop bankable project proposals that are compliant with the requirements for international climate financing institutions. So in most of the cases, we find that when we develop the projects, you submit a project proposal, it either stays forever or it doesn't get approved. And whenever you follow up as to what is the problem, you will find that it did not comply. So one of the critical things as the African continent that we should try to focus on is to build sufficient technical capacity for us to be able to access international climate finance. And you realize that that technical capacity is not as easy as being able to put the numbers together. It's a myriad of cycle that affects different processes and stages. At some point, you just need to know how to put that together in terms of the mechanism, the quantifications, the justifications on impact, climate relevance, the rationales and so on, the theories of change, but also the demonstration of the availability of the institutional mechanisms that could drive the implementation of the project once it gets approved. Those are some of the things that are really standing on our way. The second thing is this: the relationship between climate finance and development finance, because you get to realize that often than not there is a mismatch between climate finance and national priorities. In the African continent, we have a lot of issues. We are still battling to deal with poverty. We are still battling to deal with inclusion. We are still battling to deal with our socio-economic development and so on. So now we are forced to, the African continent is forced to do a paradigm shift for them to now focus on green initiatives when they are still battling with the bread and butter issues on a daily basis.
Yes.
So there's need to be that strong balance between climate finance and national priorities so that they match and they're able to seamlessly deliver on the climate change imperatives without compromising food production, poverty alleviation and others. This is captured under the Climate Change Convention itself, that we should do this in a manner that we don't compromise food production and poverty reduction at ground level. So these are some of the things that mismatch is frustrating the continent.
The continent.
Yeah.
Well, as you can hear in the background, we've already played our national anthem, and what is playing on ground is the East African Community Anthem, a signal that the chief guest, that is none other than President William Ruto, has already accessed the KICC, that is playing host to the first, or rather the inaugural African Climate Summit. So as we hand you over to the Master of Ceremony to take you through this particular summit, we just want to remind you that we're going to be keeping tabs on that. And we have been speaking to none other than Dr. Oldman Koboto, who is a manager, Commonwealth when it comes to Commonwealth Africa Finance Hub there. And he has detailed some of the challenges that are hampering Africa from tapping into international climate finance. One is lack of technical capacity, and another is competing interest by member states, where we're focusing on what is important, that is focusing on bread and butter, are not really keen on coming up with projects that will meet the requirements. We're going to be keeping tabs on that. Today is a heavy day. Matters of finance, carbon credits, as well as blue economy, and as well as energy are going to be discussed. Parallel discussions there. We're going to have cabinet ministers, energy, blue economy, and national treasury participate in this particular panel. Now back to you, Broadcasting House, and later we're going to be taking you to the auditorium, that is the Savo Ballroom, that is going to be holding the first, or rather the opening ceremony of the ACS 2023